Hi, welcome to the Urban Outdoorsman SoCal video. My name is Danny Milton, and today we're in El Dorado Park. Today we're at El Dorado Park at the archery range because I am diving into my newest rabbit hole of money pit, whatever, however you want to call it, and it's archery. So I went to John Dudley's website, Knock On Archery, and I watched his entire 12-step video, Knock On School of Knock, and it basically shows you start to finish how to shoot a bow. And after watching that video and seeing some of the pictures my friend took at one of the events that he went to, a 3D shoot, I am totally hooked. Went the next day, went out to High Tech Archery, a local shop here in Fullerton, California. I'll leave a link down below in the description if you want to check them out. Great shop. They have a ton of bows, every accessory you can ever think of. They've got 2 archery ranges. They do private lessons. I mean, they've got it all. So definitely check them out if you can. So going down this rabbit hole of archery, I've been shooting like 5, maybe 6 days a week, just an endless amount of arrows, as much as my shoulders can take. But today, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to show you how I set up the sight on my new bow. The sight that I have is the Fast Eddie XL. It is a kind of target archery type sight. Basically what it is it has a dial on it, and you can dial into any specific yardage from 20 all the way up to 100 on their sight tape. And I'll show you what a sight tape is and all that kind of stuff as well. But it's going to be really good for doing like 3D events where you're shooting, you know, the rubber animals, stuff like that, you know, wolves and deer, all that kind of stuff, but also for hunting as well. I am not a professional by any means. Like I said, I've only been doing archery for about 6 weeks, but I have sighted in this sight. This is going to be my 3rd time doing it. The first time I did it, my bow was set to 55-pound draw weight. Since then, I went up to 70 pounds, had to re-sight in the bow because, you know, the arrows are going to be shooting faster, so it changes all of your yardage distances and stuff like that. And just recently, I backed off the draw weight just a little bit, just to make it a little easier on my shoulders, just so I can come to the range and, you know, shoot more arrows before my shoulders start to get tired. So I'm not exactly sure what my draw weight is now. It's probably somewhere in the mid-60s, but we're going to go through the entire process of how you set this sight up, get it sighted in, and, you know, get you out shooting anywhere from 20 to 100 yards. So as I dive into this money pit of archery that I'm really excited to get into, I'm going to be showing you all the different stuff that I've purchased, some good, some bad. I'm going to show you my bow. I have the PSE Drive 3B. I have the extra large version, which is a 32-inch axle to axle. I've upgraded the stabilizers, the sight, which is what we're doing today. A bunch of other accessories as well. I'll be, you know, doing reviews on all of that stuff separately in upcoming videos. A couple of other things really quick that I'll show you some close-up shots of is the one really great thing, and the reason why I have this sight on my bow is you can just dial whatever yardage you want into your top pin or your bottom pin, set it and go. So if you're at a 64 or if you're at a 73 or if you're at a 47 or whatever, quickly release the switch here, dial that yardage in, lock it up, and boom, you're hitting that target right away. What you can do to get your housing pretty much in the right spot is you unloosen this bolt right here. You can move this whole thing left or right, get it pretty close to where you want, and then you use the micro adjustment right here to really dial that in. Now, when you're at 10 yards, obviously, you know, you should be hitting pretty much center of that tape line. But once you start moving out to 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards, you might find yourself hitting, you know, 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, maybe left or right. And that's where you can use that micro adjustment to really dial in that left and right movement. So pretty close to the target, like I said, about 30 feet max. But this is where you really need to, if you can't hit that vertical line at this distance, you're going to need to practice a little bit more until you get that housing dialed in exactly where you want it. I usually like to take 3 shots before I start moving anything, any dials. So you can see right there, there's my first group, all about an inch, maybe about 1.5 inches to the right. So when you are adjusting your sight, you always follow the arrows. So we need to move our housing a little bit to the right. So my first group were these 3 holes right here, all about probably about 1 inch right of center. So what I did was I moved my housing 1 millimeter to the right, and I was still getting pretty much that same grouping right here. So then what I did was I used my micro adjustment and I turned that counterclockwise 20 clicks. I turned it 20 clicks to the left, and I got 2 holes, 1 hole about, let's say, 1/2 inch off of center, 1 right on the edge of the tape, and 1 inside the tape. So then this last group you can see right here, I took the micro adjustment and I went clockwise 10 clicks, and that put me pretty much right down the center. You can see there's 1 just right of center, 1 left of center, and 1 maybe 1/8 of an inch off of the center line. So this is pretty good for right now. I'm going to leave it right there, and now we're going to go out and start doing our yardage on this line at 20 yards. All right, so just quickly, this is your dial. This is what you're going to be using to change your distance. Basically, get the housing down as low as possible, pretty close to the bottom when you're getting that 20-yard pin sighted in. What you're going to do is you're just going to release this. This tightens that down so it doesn't move at all. And if your arrows are missing high, what you need to do is raise the housing. If your arrows are missing low, you need to lower the housing. Yeah, if your arrows are missing low, you're going to turn this dial clockwise. That will bring the housing down. If your arrows are missing high, you need to raise the housing, and you're going to turn this counterclockwise. All right, so what we're going to be doing now is we're out to 20 yards, and we're just going to be shooting our top green dot at the horizontal line and turning our dial here left or right to get that sighted into that yardage. Anytime I'm doing any type of change on a dial or a switch, I like to take at least 2 or 3 shots just to make sure that, you know, you can take an average of the 3. Sometimes you might have 1 high, 1 low, you know, going anywhere like that. So that first one looks about 2 to 3 inches high. Okay, so you can see my previous 2 shots are right here on the bottom of the line, and my last end, you can see right here, they're all right near the top of the tape. This one was a little bit high. This one here was pretty decent, and that one was just on the edge. So I got to find just the middle ground in between these 2 ends and get all 3 of these right in the middle of the tape. So this is my last end right here. You can see these 2 on the right, I pretty much buried on each other, dead center. This last one right here, I pulled down just a little bit, but with those 2 that close together, I'd say that's pretty good for a 20-yard mark. So now that we have our 20-yard mark, what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these. You can see I've already cut off 2 of these here. This is the 3rd one here. These are the calibration scale tapes. What you're going to do is you can see all the way at the top of the tape, there's a 20-yard mark. You're going to take one of these tapes, put it on your dial right where you have the 20 pin. The 20 pin is going to go right there next to that little hash mark. And then we're going to slowly make our way out to 60 yards. And wherever our pin ends up on this scale here, where all the red and black marks are, is where our 60-yard mark is going to be. And that will tell us which one of these sight tapes back here that we're going to use. So you're going to see now we have the sight tape on there. The top pin is pointed right at the line going through 20 yards. That's where you want to line it up, not that line, not that solid black line above the 20, but the 2 smaller hash marks going right through both sides of the 20. We're going to line those up, and we're going to push the rest of this sight tape on there, and then start walking back out to 60 yards. So after we get our 20-yard marker set and we've got our calibration tape on there, what we're going to do is we're going to slowly move out 30 yards, 40 yards, 50 yards, all the way up to 60 yards. Now on that calibration tape, 30, 40, 50, and 60, none of those yardages are marked. So what you have to do is just kind of guess. What you're going to do is you're going to turn that dial back maybe a 1/4 inch or so, go out to 30 yards, take a couple shots and see where you're landing. If you're landing in the center of your target, you're good. Go back out to 40. If you're hitting a little bit high, a little bit low, you know, you can fine tune that with just a couple of shots real quick to get you 30. Go down about another 1/4 inch or so, get out to 40, do the same thing, take a couple shots, just make sure you're hitting somewhere mid target. Dial, get out to 50, go down another 1/4 inch, take a couple shots, hitting high, hitting low. Just want to make sure you're hitting the middle of that target. You don't have to fine tune, you know, 30, 40, 50. What you have to fine tune is 60, and you're just kind of slowly turning that dial down that calibration scale until you get out to 60. And then once you getting, you know, relatively close to that 60-yard line, you're just going to fine tune from there. You know, I started at 25, went down to 22, 20, 19, 17. Thought I was good at 17. Actually ended up all the way down to calibration scale 14. Threw that 14 sight tape on, and yeah, we're going to be good to go. I'm going to take some shots out at 60, out at 80. Might even take some 90-yard shots just to make sure that we're all good and that tape is sighted in pretty well. Quick, we got our hash mark at 20. Just going to go down maybe 1/4 inch. Lock that off. You know, there's no numbers here. You're just trying to guess. And this first shot's going to be about 30 yards. You want to try to get the arrow somewhere near the center of the target. Yeah, I'm almost right on it. Maybe just above it, maybe an inch, maybe a 1/2 inch off the center. So let's dial it down another 1/4 inch and go out to 40 yards. One shot at 30 because I was pretty dead on. Moved the wheel down about another 1/4 inch, and we're going to take a shot here at 40 yards. I mean, even if I was, you know, five yards off, the arrow still wouldn't be more than about a foot low or a foot high. That's maybe an inch above the tape line. You got about a 3 foot tall target and you're aiming dead center, you should be fine. Yeah, that one was a little bit higher, but still we're good. So we're gonna dial it down a little bit more. Okay, so now we're starting to get into the realm where a lot of people are gonna feel uncomfortable shooting. Right now we're at about maybe 50, 51 yards. And when I first started shooting, you know, it took me a couple of weeks before I got out to 50 yards. Mostly I was shooting at 20 yards. Every once in a while I would go to 30 and 40. That is the one thing about this sight, is you're going to have to be able to shoot out to at least 60 yards to get it sighted in properly. And depending on how far off that line you are, you know, you might just have to guess. But take a 50-yard shot here and see where we're going to land. That's better. That was maybe a couple inches high, but not really trying to be super accurate yet. So far, we've got the bow sighted in at 20 yards. We've moved all the way back to 60. I've shot several ends yesterday. I did come back a second day because my shoulders are starting to get a little bit tired, and I wanted to make sure that I'm getting the most accurate results that I can get, getting those arrows as close to that line at 60 yards as I can. So came back day 2. I'm pretty much set on the hash mark on the little graduated scale is at 17. I'm gonna do probably 2 or 3 ends just to see where that lands right now. Maybe fine tune one up or one down just to see, just get it as close to that line as I possibly can. You know, from 60 yards, if I'm within 1 or 2 inches of that, you know, that tape line, that center line, I'm pretty happy with that. That's about where I am, you know, as far as my progress has gone. Sometimes I'll hit that line, sometimes I won't, sometimes I have a flyer, but it just all goes into, you know, trying to take the average of where those arrows are landing in relationship to that line. Okay, so this is my last and final group. I think I'm settled in at the hash mark 14. You can see we got one low one down here. That's one I pulled low, but everything else, got tape, 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 one high. And over on the far right, you've got one maybe 1/4 inch below the tape. I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's about as good as I'm gonna get at 60 yards as far as up and down goes. So we're going to cut out sight tape 14 and put that on the wheel. Okay, so you can see this is where we ended up on the calibration scale. My top pin is at the 14. We're gonna take the calibration scale tape off, cut out strip 14, on the sight tapes and put that on. All right, so we've got our top pin set back right at that 20. We've got the dial locked in place. We're going to take our calibration tape off. We're going to stick that back onto the front here in case you need to use it again. I've reused these strips several times to stick it back on this so that stick doesn't leave. We've got sight tape number 14. Hopefully that's in focus. It's pretty close to the camera. This is sight tape 14. You can see the 14 at the top. We're going to peel the sticker back off of this, and what we're going to do is just slide this into place, get that 20 lined up, get the top part of the backing off. I don't take the whole backing off yet. That way we can just slide this in here, work it around a little bit till we get it just right. That looks good right there. Make sure that top part is pressed in nice and well, and then we can release our lever down here and just slowly peel the backing off and push our sight tape on. I'm going to make sure it goes straight and keep it underneath. One other thing too is I always keep about an extra, ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch of just the blank white down here at the bottom. So if I want to mark anything past 100 yards with my bottom pin there, I can do that. So we are locked in. Just want to make sure this tape's on there nice and snug. Try to get out all those air bubbles, and we are set. Yeah, once you have that sight tape on there and everything's working well, you're hitting, as good as you can out at those longer ranges, anything past, 50, 60, 70, 80, even out to 100 yards. The longest shots I've taken are about 106. That's about as far down as I can get before you have to worry about the top of your fletching hitting the bottom of your sight housing. So go out there nice and easy. Once you've got that sight tape on there, it's super fun throwing those long bombs. You're practicing those longer shots. Of course, you're never going to take a shot on an animal that far, but when you're out at those longer distances, it's going to show you how much movement and shake you have back and forth because you have such a smaller target. So if you can hit those targets, you can hit that plate, that 1 foot plate, center of your target at 100 yards, shooting a bull or a buck or anything at 20 or 30 yards is going to seem like a piece of cake. Or shooting a 3D target if that's what you're into as well. So have fun. This sight is really cool. I really like the vertical pins compared to the pins that come out to the side. So thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate it. Do all that fun stuff for me, please. Hit that like button, share, comment. Definitely subscribe to the channel. I'm going to have a lot more archery stuff coming your way. I'm going to have reviews on a bunch of the equipment I have. I'm going to take you out to some of the spots that I shoot at. And hopefully in November, I'm going to be doing a wild turkey hunt. Hopefully me and my buddy Jimmy will be able to bag a turkey, and I'll bring you guys along for that adventure as well. And last but not least, click on one of these boxes in the corners. One's going to take you to a rides playlist, another to a favorite video, and always you can click the logo in one of those corners, the Urban Outdoorsman SoCal logo, to subscribe. Thanks a lot.